What's going on, guys? This is the 5 Yard Pass podcast, bringing you another 2020 Euro 2020 edition. Semi-finals are set in stone. Quarterfinals have been played, and a few upsets, a few great wins. And I tell you what, man, I was going into this 2020. It was the most disinterested I've been in international football. I don't know what it was. It wasn't doing it for me, especially with the Super League going on, with this and then the World Cup coming up next year. But I tell you what, I mean, for me, this is one of the best international tournaments, maybe since 2002 World Cup, which I thought in my mind, I remember that being the best World Cup I ever watched. This has been equally good for the wins, for the losses, for the upsets, for players standing out. We'll start off with the kind of the Italy side of the quarterfinal. Italy beating Belgium, and the Swiss beating the French. Excuse me,
the Spanish beating the Swiss.
The Spanish beating the Swiss on penalties, which arguably should have gone the Swiss way. I think coming out of the semi-final, Italy just looked so menacing, so menacing. They look so good. But let's just talk about Spain for a quick minute. Obviously, you saw the game. You saw what the Swiss brought to the table. What did you think of Spain coming out of that game? For me, before you go, for me, the one thing they showed, which they haven't for the last maybe year and a half, was a bit of grit, a bit of mental fortitude, especially with the keeper Unai Simon, who hasn't done very well this tournament, but he came out two or three saves in the penalties. What did you think of Spain?
Yeah, I think that I think one of the things that they didn't quite get right was they tried. They almost had what I don't like saying it this way because it sounds a bit derogatory, but it was a bit of a cookie cutter approach. They tried sort of the same things that they were trying in the other games, and the Swiss had a plan for that, and Spain didn't really respond particularly well. The only thing they sort of did was they try and stretch the wingers. The wingers were literally on the two different touch lines to try and spread the team. But when you've got a team that relies on sort of short passing, you've got two very isolated wingers, it just wasn't quite working and clicking. But like you said, they showed a bit of grit. They're not necessarily renowned for that. They're more known for possession football. They still had a lot of possession. The Swiss probably made better chances. And again, their keeper came up big. Is it Simon or Simon? However you pronounce it.
No, Simon, yeah.
Yeah, so he had a good game. They have the Spain are a bit like that. They go from like about second gear to fifth really quickly. And they just when they get in the zone, they're very difficult to beat, almost unstoppable. They've had two games where they've scored 5 goals in each of the games, and then in the other 3 games they've scored 1 goal. So
I mean,
they're very much.
I mean, the Swiss have done themselves proud.
They were lukewarm at best against Switzerland.
Yeah, I mean, the Swiss did themselves proud, and you have to remember they got a red card around the 75th. I'm just double checking here, but the 75th minute mark.
Yeah.
Yeah, they got a red card, and they managed to hold on for 25 plus another 30 minutes, close to 60 minutes. They managed to hang on. They did really well, and like fair play to them. People slept on them, but I'm going back over the lineup. I'm like, how did we sleep on such a good lineup overall? We'll come into the Italy Belgium just really quick before we talk about the semi-final. Italy Belgium I think it delivered. Honestly, it delivered such a good game. It's come out since that De Bruyne went in with a couple of torn ligaments. Eden Hazard didn't play, but Italy. What I loved the most about it was what I grew up watching football as much as you did. Bonucci and Chiellini. I kind of wrote them off a little bit. You were like, no, they're going to be important, and they've been the chat of the last few days. I mean, talk to me about cheek. I mean, they've played over 300, 400 games together at Juventus. Excuse me. Just talk to me about Italian defending, man, because that was a masterclass. You know those YouTube ads you get. This is your masterclass. Like you have Bonucci and.
Yeah. But Chiellini, before now, he was kind of known as the guy that Suarez beat at the World Cup, wasn't he? He's a very unassuming. Like when I grew up, every Italian defender was like a superstar. You had Cannavaro, Maldini, Baresi, Nesta. Yeah. You had all the Ichiro Ferrara, Tosocchi, like so many. Like they grew centre backs on trees, and they were all super. Like you looked at the Italian squad, and it's like, how did that guy not get in? It's because everyone else was awesome, you know. Had these brutal centre backs, starting with the aptly named Gentile in 1982, and all the way through to the current crop. Those two are very old school. Chiellini is like 37 or something. I knew he was old. I didn't realize he's that old.
36 and 34. I didn't realize Bonucci was so old.
Yeah, Bonucci. Yeah, he was a bit. Yeah, I didn't realize that he was that old either. But
I
it
mean,
was
football
just
old, Sean, football old.
football. Yeah, no, he's the same age as me. Anyway, go
Yeah.
on. But the yeah, it's a bit of that old and the new. Yeah, it's like they're getting married, something old, something new, something blue. But the idea is that um, they have this effervescence going forward, but international football, you don't get a chance to build those partnerships, and those two just know each other inside and out. And Chiellini in particular was really good. Bonucci was good, but Chiellini, something about him, whenever the ball got near him, the ball ended up further away from the goal. Just the way that he was just, I don't like saying thuggishly effective, but it was real sort of like, it was more like a thug life type performance, wasn't it? Like he was just
And
the
Chiellini
man
as
who played
well.
street football and he just knew what he had to do.
There's something about Chiellini I was noticing the whole game was he had a smile on his face. He had this very, it was the guy who was very kind of liberated with like how good he is, but at the same time you can tell this he knows this is probably his last tournament.
Mm.
He probably will be good enough to play in Qatar, but it just felt like maybe he, the way like Tony Cruz could go to Qatar as well, but he's just retired. In that same sense, it just seems like Chiellini's playing with very little baggage, almost emotional,
That
and he was
condensation of the
absolutely
calendar is going to count against him because the
yeah,
season will start at the same time. There's not going to be an off season next year. They normally have about
yeah,
8 weeks off. That's going to be about
yeah,
3 weeks now because of
yeah,
that World Cup. Um, so if he doesn't think he can go around again, which is you'll find probably a lot of the older players will retire after this
yeah,
tournament, and the same in the Latin American countries as well, South American countries as well, just because of that turnaround. That 8 weeks
hmm,
that they get off when they go partying and all that sort of thing, their bodies need that. If he doesn't think
yeah,
he can do it, the only way he plays in the World Cup is if someone like De Ligt at Juventus gets a lot more game time and can take
yeah,
that pressure off him. If the De Ligt
yeah,
doesn't come good, then he's probably not going. And like you said, when you've got nothing to lose, that can bring out the best in you.
yeah.
Belgium, I would have expected a bit more from Lukaku. Not that he played badly; it's just he was going to be the difference maker, and it ended up being the centre backs from Italy. And Donnarumma made a couple of really good saves as well. He
He
had a
did,
really
yeah,
good save off De Bruyne. He said it was the best save he's ever made in his life. So you can see what it
yeah.
means to him to get this far with Italy.
Funny you say that. I know exactly. I mean, we know what we're talking about, but it was De Bruyne's left foot as well. That's how fucking good the guy is, man.
With no
He's
ligaments.
so and I honestly he was limping towards the end, but it was after a knock, and I'm guessing the knock obviously exacerbated the whatever ligament injury he had in his ankles. But I mean, he played really well.
He's hard, man.
It's a shame.
He's like Steve Gerrard hard, man. Respect to him.
Yeah, he's he the unfortunately Belgium is this is perhaps their first real golden generation. If this team went on to win the Euro, if this team went on to win the last World Cup, no one would have batted an eyelid. It wouldn't have been a huge upset. It would have been perhaps they were just down the line, but they get into a stage they only have a tournament left before you're looking at going like, oh, every team has a precipice or has a turning point. They talk about Spurs back in 2018 where they've just gone down from there because they never really did much with. They didn't
Yeah.
do anything really. They got to finals. They came second 3 years in a row. This Belgian team feels like that now, where they need to push on. They need to start blooding in a couple of youngsters here and there. They need to potentially remove that back line because they got too many Spurs players in there. Is that what happens? Is
Funny that you're liking Spurs to Belgium and then now.
yeah.
But
So
but yeah, you're
on
right.
that,
I actually feel like that this is it for those, particularly that back three. I kind of feel this
yeah,
is it. I don't really
yeah,
see all three of them being there in Qatar. So there's going to be
yeah.
some sort of change. De Bruyne is even 30 himself, so he's sort of reaching the Qatar might be his last chance to win something as sort of the talisman of the team. So that tournament's going to mean a lot to him.
I was just gonna say that. I'll put it to you here. He probably has 3 tournaments left, but this would be his last tournament in the position he's playing. He'll just become
as,
something
as
else.
as the star of the team. Yeah,
Yeah, a different position, perhaps. Who knows what he could do? Drop into a number 6 role. But yeah, this is the last, maybe the second last as a real talisman. Let's move on to the semi-final, man. The reason why we're here: Italy versus Spain, Tuesday, July 6th. I mean, it's a classic '90s footballing battle, a war against an up and up Italian side, perhaps one of the best, if not the best team in the world right now. You have to remember Copa America is going on, and Argentina is doing well, but Italy at the moment look very, very good, and Spain look good in moments. Can you look good in moments against Italy and win the game? I don't think you can.
I don't think you can. Italy's effervescence, the way that they got that goal, the number 10 the little fella, Insignia.
Insignia.
Yeah, the way he
Insignia.
scored that goal,
Jesus, what a
yeah,
goal!
I
It's got
drooled when I
FIFA
saw
goal.
that goal. That oh yeah, that was a
A
wonderful
FIFA
goal.
goal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was really something. They've got this. It's funny. Both teams are in a similar situation. That Spain's got these sort of older players like Busquets captaining the team, and all the players structured around, and then you got those young guys like Pedri around him. Italy's kind of at the same moment where you've got these older gnarly veterans that like Bonucci and Keane Elliott, and then you got the younger guys coming through. I feel Italy's a little further along in terms of
Mm.
where they are compared to Spain. Maybe the changes in manager have not helped Spain in that regard coming into the tournament. Um, if I do think at the moment, if Spain click, anything's possible.
Mm.
But the odds are like if you're looking for someone more consistent, I think Italy's had a better tournament. I think Italy has more
Yeah.
weapons to beat Spain. The
Mhm.
smart money would be in Italy, just in regards to the teams a little bit further forward. They've had a bit of a better tournament. The best players are playing a little bit better. You don't really look through the Spain side and think, oh, these guys are being playing really, really well. Whereas you look
Yeah.
at the Italian team, you talk about Chiellini, Insigne, the midfield three, Chiesa, Immobile. Like, there's a lot of guys doing really well, and
Hmm.
sometimes tournaments can just come down to that, to just that moment, who produces at that point in time. And Italy's looks
Well,
more likely.
well, Italy conceded, was it one or two goals the whole tournament? One of which is Lukaku penalty. The problem with Belgium, and it's the last talking point for me, and I think it's the most important one, is when it came down to breaking down a 10-man Swiss side, they struggled. They got close. They really did. And in fact, what's his name? Jan Sommer had the best goalkeeper performance of the tournament, 10 saves in a single game.
Mm.
Um, but in saying that, they struggled to break down a very, very stingy, resilient side in Switzerland. Are they going to do the same for Italy? You can't. You can't, not against this Italian side. They're
The
very, very
one
good.
thing I'll say is that I forgot his name. The left back came off injured. That might be a big blow for them
Spinazzola.
defensively and going forward. It depends on how they want to go. The replacements there, you've either got someone who's very attack minded who doesn't defend, or someone who's very
Yeah,
defense minded and doesn't add a lot going forward. So I think
yeah,
that they've lost the perfect left back there, Italy. That might
yeah,
affect them, but I think they'll go conservative.
yeah.
Italian sides are quite comfortable, and that's how I think that's how they'll play. They'll be quite happy to give Spain possession to a degree in certain parts of the
Hmm.
pitch, but when Spain
Yeah,
try and get into Italy's half, I think that that's where the press and the counter will start. So you'll
yeah.
probably see the ball a lot shimming around Spain's back four. When they try and pierce into the midfield, that's where Italy's midfielders will get into the game, and they will have support from the forwards in those sort of deeper positions to win and then spring and attack Spain. Spain
Well,
don't have a lot of pace at the back, and I think that with the exception of Alba and Jordi Alba, and I think that that is going to be an issue for them.
well, undoubtedly, the Spinazzola being injured is huge. He's been immense this tournament, one of their best players. That is actually a really good point. Spain could be targeting that left back area because they got Emerson coming in, Emerson for Chelsea. I think he's played maybe 5 times this season. He's played maybe 20 times in the last 2 years. So he's not, his muscles are not, is he going to be ready for 180 minutes of football? Or, potentially more? That's a good question. Are they going to change the system to a back three like they did against, Jesus, was it Portugal the last game or the Hungary? I can't remember, but they went to a back three and they left Chiellini out. Which at this are you going to leave Chiellini out now? Maybe not. So the most likely scenario is they're going to go for a back four. All right, Sham. I want a prediction. I want a star man for a key man. Sorry for both sides.
I'm gonna go 2-0 to Italy.
Mm.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna go with what's his so who's the Insigne for Italy.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
just love the way that he took the game on, and he's
Yeah.
diminutive as well. Like you look at him and you know he's a fighter, but he's skillful and classy as well. He looks quite South American actually.
Mm.
He might even have Argentinian ancestry the way that they build
Yeah.
that team. With Spain, I'm going to go with Busquets. I think the captain needs to stand up for them to have a
Yeah.
chance. That space right
Yeah.
in front of the defense is very important. I think Busquets
Yeah.
becomes very important to Spain.
Yeah, I think Spain's going to hold. I think we know Spain's going to hold a lot of the ball, and this could make Italy go back to the old ways, contagion football. Which is why you're right. The likes of like Insignia. By the way, I just on a quick point. No, no, we don't need to like talk about it. But Chiesa also had a really good game. But those guys who are going to burst forward. the press from Jorginho, from Verratti and Jorginho are going to be really important. I'm going to go 1-0. This will be very, very testy, and they're going to win that. They're going to go into the final against England, against Denmark. Very confident, I think. Cautiously optimistic, but very confident. All right, Sham, any closing thoughts?
No, no, nothing for me. I'm really
Two
looking
games
forward to
left.
this game. I do think the other semi is going to be a bit blood and thunder. I think this is going to be more of a cat and mouse type
Yeah.
games. Two very different semi-finals potentially. But
Yeah.
there's been a lot of really good football. You made the point before, like about international football, and I think with everything going on and COVID as well, nobody knew what to expect, and everyone's just sort of teams have just sort of decided we're just going to have a go, and
Yeah.
they've avoided a lot of the cat and mouse that you see, and I
Yeah.
think it's just made for a wonderful spectacle.
Perfect. Just here, guys, don't forget to like and subscribe. We are the 5 Yard Pass podcast. My name is Suddy. This is Sham. Keep football simple, and as always,
Keep passing, guys.
I'm on fire.